Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. I am Dr. Marianne Pinkston, and over the last couple of weeks with the podcast, I've been going over a mind, body, spirit series, and so today is going to add to that. I've got a fantastic guest from Charlotte, North Carolina, bless her heart. We are going to have Kayla Logue. I hope, dear, I mean to always check your name before we talk, and I want to say that correctly, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Kayla Logue, and a great guest to, you're a keynote speaker, you're an author, now a best-selling author. Congratulations on that. Interesting title, Squeezing Lemons, and we are, you also have a nonprofit, which we'll talk about, and many things going on, Pilates business, and so I think she's going to be a great addition to Mind, Body, and Spirit, and we'll open that up. But Kayla, welcome in. It is so nice to have you. Please tell us a little bit about you, your story, and how you got started in all of this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And you pronounced my last name perfectly, which is actually, it's not surprising. I just have gotten a long list of different ways it's been pronounced. So
absolutely,
yes,
same here. And I usually clarify that before the podcast. I do know my guest folks. We're well studied, but until you talk.
Pronunciations are completely different. Yeah. But thank you so much for having me. I'm thankful to be here. And yeah, so I mean, I do have a ton going on. It definitely didn't look like that, 4 years ago. I've had quite a road up and down. To kind of just preface it a little bit as we kind of dive into this. In 2020, as we spoke before, I completely started over. I was going through the motions of life, checking off the boxes of society, as I call it, and not really, focusing on what those boxes looked like for me or what was really authentic and what I truly wanted. I was, the picture perfect life, the success defined by external validation, not, doing the deep work and asking myself hey, well, where do I want to be right now in 5 years? And when I paused and started to really kind of reflect and, reframe that, I realized everything I was doing had no purpose. And so started over, took $900, ended up getting a divorce, left my career, and was I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out. And so over the past 4 years, I've worked in real estate. I've started a social media company, and, a lot of that has evolved. And that's where, I wrote a book about the whole story and kind of coming into myself. The subtitle is Taking Responsibility to Define Your Own Success. Beautiful. And so really kind of sharing that story and exploring what that really meant to me, but painting it a picture for readers to be able to do the same for themselves. Absolutely. Which also led to my nonprofit. And the nonprofit's called Move Into Words, and it's really all about cultivating a community for young professionals to thrive physically and mentally. So we do take more of that holistic approach. We integrate journaling as a very heavy tool that we advocate for everyone that attends our events. And, we're in the starting phase, but we have big plans for expansion and rapidly working towards that. And then, yes, I'm also a multi-unit franchise owner for Jet Set Pilates. So really all full force in the health and wellness space. And yes, what I really love about it is I've transferred really over the past 4 years and coming into myself is from the, consumption mindset of checking off the next best thing or the next award or the next title into more of the contribution side and realizing that the more people that I can impact, the more that I can do to help other people, the better that I become and the more fulfilled I am. And it also makes me become the best version of myself. So there's been a huge shift. We'll kind of dive into how that's really happened, but I guess it's a little bit of a preface of a lot that's happened.
A wonderful, and you're so young, bless you. You are so young, and one thing I told my daughter last night, we were sitting at the kitchen table, and I told her, I really would love for you to figure some things out while you're young, in your young 20s now, because I'm 55 and just figuring this out. So can we work on this and do this a little bit earlier in life? And, that gives you so much more to live by. You brought up a lot of great points, and one of the things that I think is that would be great to focus on, first, the journaling. So when I sit with my patients and I do some more mental work, I am a family practitioner. I work a lot with the physical body and correcting your cholesterol and things like that, but work a lot with people who have depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. But you don't have to be diagnosed. You don't have to be diagnosable. You don't have to have that as a true diagnosis, to feel down or have anxieties and things that with everything going on in the world. And so a lot of times people ask me, how do they get started on on, making sense of their life, making sense of a problem. And I often bring up journaling as a great way of doing that, whether it's just focused on your life in general or whether it's problem focused, kind of a pros and cons list, something to get it out on paper, something you can get off your mind and heart. And I think it helps people look at things less subjectively, more objectively, and, get you out of your mind and your space. So you bring up an interesting point there. Tell us a little bit about journaling and your thoughts and how you came about to focus on this.
Yeah. So, I actually used to think journaling, it was kind of a dumb idea. I was like, there is no way a 25-year-old with a long overdue diary like this is going to make any impact. And this was when, again, I had no direction at all. I just left my ex-husband, horrible relationship. Yes. And, I was going through a lot. And I grew up playing sports. So I called it the athlete mentality. I had it for years, right? Just suck it up, rub some dirt on it, keep moving on. Well, that doesn't work. That doesn't work when you have past traumas that you're not even able to, process. And, all of our traumas are different, right? My level of what I was going through, I can't compare to anybody else. And we have to really kind of accept that. And I think that's where a lot of us don't really deal with our problems, is we compare them to other people's problems. Yeah. And so the first step to even accepting journaling or trying to process it is acknowledging that you do have problems that you need to work through and start to kind of, embrace that. And then so with journaling, for me, what I think really held me up was there were things I didn't really want to admit to myself. There were things that I don't think I was ready to be honest with. And then until I committed to being like, okay, I'm going to do this one with intention. I need to write down things that I don't want anybody to know, that quite frankly, I don't even really want to know. And I just need to put it all out there. And my sister was the one that highly encouraged me to start doing it. She encouraged me for months, and then I finally gave in. And I'll never forget the first night that I did. And it was just like 10 pages of complete word vomit. But I committed to putting down every thought and every feeling that I was avoiding or trying to outrun. Physical activity has always really kind of been my mental therapy, but it can only take you so far to a certain extent. Because if you're just allowing things to, build up in your mind and run a race through your mind and not actually process what that trigger is and why, then you're really getting nowhere. So, for people that are trying to start, it's first committing and understanding, one, that you have problems that you want to work through, right? Acknowledging that you do want to make a difference. Yeah. And then two, making it intentional. I can go to the gym and I can stand there and get nothing out of it. It's the same thing. I can start writing stuff down, but if I'm not doing it with intention and, really being honest with myself, I'm not going to really get too much out of it. So, to start to kind of uncover that stuff, right now I'm actually going through the artist way, because I really do love different people's perspectives of how they, go through workbooks and things like that. And as we're kind of building a journal for Move Into Words, I kind of like to take different things of my experience and kind of put things together. And one big thing in the artist way is morning pages. And it's just writing everything down. It's just getting it out there. It doesn't have to have flow. It's just allowing yourself to process. And that's when I say be vulnerable with the pages. It doesn't have to have structure. You don't need to punctuate it. Just put down what comes to your mind. Right. And for me, I feel like that's the most beautiful way to start. I know that's how I started. And then you can kind of start to creep more into prompts and get a little bit more aligned with it.
Right. Right. Do you have any guides as to how somebody gets started? Now, I know you have a journal that you do in your program, and kind of, I think, more geared toward young professionals and whatnot. Is something that people in general, a general population, can do of any age?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think everyone's starting kind of depending on, it's not really age, it's not really demographic. It's just a matter of, again, wanting to get started. Yeah. I think the simplest, anything, get started, be simple with it. It doesn't need to take an hour out of your day. It can take 5 minutes. I call it the 5-minute practice that can change your life. Right. And whether that's just writing down 3 things that you're grateful for. I did that for over a year. And now it just has become, a complete habit of 3 things that I'm grateful for. That turns into an entire new practice of kind of elaborating. So maybe for a week, you just write down 3 grateful thoughts. Well, maybe the second week you can go in and sort of elaborate, why am I grateful for these things? Right. And so, so really kind of just making that positive shift. And there are days where you're going to wake up and be like, I'm just not in a positive mood. Well, write down why you're not, right. So I think really ultimately, there's prompts. Some people have to have a prompt. I think it works different for everybody, but the biggest key to getting started is doing it with intention and kind of having even maybe a little bit of an end goal in mind of wanting to uncover something at the same time.
it's awkward. It's awkward to sit down and open up something like that. I've done it. When I thought it was advised, to do something of the same and sat down, it's awkward. And, the thing is, it's a confidential world. It's not something you have to, show anybody. It is eye-opening sometimes to read the things that you put down, then go back and read it later and think, what kind of mind space was I in? But getting started is awkward. So, you can take a note. I'm thinking too about people who are younger and kind of the technology age. Most of the time they want to get on a computer on their phone and type something out. And the written word is something that's lost to us in generations over time. And there's nothing like getting a spiral notebook, opening up and pen in hand and, starting to put out your thoughts and words. And there is no rhyme or reason behind it. And if you want to, focus on a specific problem, if you want to focus on, generalizations, I think, just starting, like you say, with a point of gratitude and a few words of why you're grateful. I think I read a statistic that said it takes 5 positive things to overcome a negative thing in our mind. It's called negativity bias. And so putting things down about gratitude and why you're grateful opens up that positivity channel and allows you, I think, to focus more on your problems from a positive force. And so, just getting started, pen in hand, sit down, start writing your thoughts. Is there any place, though, where people can find how to, if they're not in active counseling or under a coaching situation, is there a way, is there a guide, I guess, for people to start journaling? I know I bought several different types of journals. I had to find what was right for me, but what is your recommendation as far as a guide?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're working on building the ultimate guide for Move Into Words and, putting it out there, not just for our community, but for everyone. Right. So that's in the works. Stay tuned. But, ultimately, and again, for me, and that's why everyone's different. I just got started. I just started writing things down and it is awkward, but nothing really great happens in your comfort zone. So you just kind of got to do it. And it's not, there's no stage out there. Like I said, actually the artist way I do really like. I personally, I kind of dove into that one really well. Right. It's very well known. They have a workbook. She has a workbook. She has a whole book. Absolutely. And I think it's very articulate. It's very detailed. It's very specific. I like the workbook the best because she even explains it in the beginning. She's like, if you want to know all the intellectual reasoning behind it, buy the book. But if you want just this to work and you don't need to have the intellectual reasoning for it to work, it gives you some context. But here's the workbook. Here's a great way to start coming into yourself. So I actually would highly recommend that one as kind of a good way to force yourself to write. It does give you that, almost parameters of where to start and a little bit more guidance. But, for some people that just want a free flow, I kind of hinting back on what you were saying about, technology and, typing it out compared to writing, there's a huge difference. Yes. And, even actually in The Artist's Way, she explains this very well that, by writing things down, putting pen to paper, it forces you to slow down. And, we're all full speed ahead and, in many cases, that's not a bad thing. But when it comes down to journaling and processing, our emotions and taking time to really, be within ourselves, slowing down is a huge key. Yes. And, it's easy to just type and, write things out. Don't get me wrong. I don't just carry my notebook around in my journal everywhere I go. So I'll think of a thought and I have a running list of notes in my phone, which I think are great to kind of make notes and refrain back to your journaling. I do that very often. Yes. But yeah, I would say if somebody was interested in exploring one, for me, I do really like the structure of The Artist's Way. Out of everyone that I've used or seen, it's definitely intentional. Yes. It's very deep and it's methodical. That is perfect. Thank you. I agree. And the title of that is kind of misleading. It sounds like it's a book about somebody who wants to start in their art, in an artist, fashion. But no, you're right. I think that's a very good one. And I'll try to provide a link for that on the website so people can find it. And then, journaling as far as a counselor, you brought up trauma and history of old trauma. And I try to pinpoint this frequently within the office with patients, with anything I write or blog or trying to point this out on the podcast, because I think
it seems like it's a very popular word lately. Maybe it's become a little bit of a fad to, say triggers and trauma and things like that. But why does something become a fad? Because it's enlightened, socially that there are things that are underneath us that we do repress, things that are a ticking time bomb and need to be exposed. And I think journaling is a great way, to do that. Young or old, we all have those things underneath. We all have those triggers, and focusing on that, I think, is great. So, thank you for bringing that point up too, and very, very worthwhile to sit and journal and point out your gratitude toward toward those traumas and rebuilding yourself and trying to heal. Not everybody wants to go to a counselor. I highly recommend it. I think counseling is a wonderful thing. Not a lot of people want to do it, so you can enter in with yourself there. A good reference, like she said, The Artist's Way, and then journaling for yourself. So how did you get started on Pilates? So here's another place where I think people can look in. You mentioned being an athlete. You mentioned using sports and your athleticism to process and give your spiritual side a kick. I do the same thing. I found that about 8 years ago, and it's the greatest thing that I ever did. I lost about 180 pounds. I was 300 pounds at one point.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
And so I found that to be extremely therapeutic. And so many people are looking for a source, something that they can start. Pilates is a great way to do that. How did you get into Pilates?
So I actually used to manage two of the original solid core studios. And so now they're a huge nationwide reformer Pilates company, and they're still corporate. So that was back in DC, and that was my old career before I kind of started over. But I did actually love that job. I just found myself capped out in terms of opportunity for growth within that company. Sure. But I learned a ton. I mean, when it was that small and it grew from 13 studios to over 100 studios by the time that I left. So going through that type of rapid change and growth, I mean, when I was there, each studio, like we were the CEOs of our studio, not getting paid like it, but I mean, we ran every single thing from hiring, firing to, if the AC broke, figure it out. So, I mean, we were very much so like in charge of everything there. So that's how I got started into it. But ultimately, even like personally, I played sports, like I said, my whole life. I always have worked out, and I went to a reformer class and I was like, what is this? This is like, it was so hard and also very humbling. Like I thought I was strong, and then I realized I was not strong in the places that I needed to be. Right. So, and I mean, gosh, I had multiple cortisone shots in my knees by the time I was 22, just from wear and tear from playing sports. Started doing Pilates, never had knee pain, never had back pain, never again. Excellent. So, there's just a lot of things where I became very obsessed with the workout, and always have been ever since. So, flash forward now to, from that point on, gosh, it was at least now 8 years ago. And I was working in luxury real estate here. The company was taking a different direction. Enjoyed real estate for the communications, the relationships, the networking piece, but it just wasn't really, I don't think, my path. Right. So my now life partner and my business partner and we invested heavily into opening up Pilates studios. He's always wanted to own a gym. I have a great background in reformers Pilates space, of course, and this opportunity for franchising. It's a newer franchise, but the company's been around for 15 years now in South Florida. So anybody in South Florida listening to this, I know Jet Set Pilates, so it would be more than surprised if they don't. They're everywhere. So newer franchise model. I've actually worked with a lot of the development team back in the solid core days that are now with Jet Set. So it's kind of like deja vu in a whole new light, and kind of creating ownership. But, really overall, like I said, I love the workout. I know how life-changing it was for me. I know many people it's changed the life of, and ultimately being able to coach it, create that community, provide that service for so many other people, while being able to make money and doing what I love. It's definitely combines into the perfect opportunity, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Well, with Pilates, so many people really don't know. I know in San Antonio, it's not a very popular thing. Yoga, that seems to be something that people dive into. What is described for people? What's the difference? What's the difference between Pilates and yoga or any other type?
I mean, gosh, it's, with yoga is definitely similar to Pilates in a sense, but I would say Pilates is definitely more like strength based. They can kind of coincide in terms of movements, but the way the actual, class is led is different. And also what we're opening is a reformer studio. So it's a reformer. You have two platforms you got to carry. It's just resistance based. So you've got spring loads all the way from 3 pounds up to 88 pounds.
Nice.
And it's slow, controlled time under tension movements. So a lot of the things that you do, even, aside from, a yoga space, but if you were to do, HIIT or even just, running, that there's more high intensity, higher impact workouts. This is a high intensity, but lower impact.
Right.
So it's all about the slow control of working muscles down to failure and building those smaller, almost supportive muscles to strengthen. It's a greatest compliment to just about anything, truly.
It really is. And I think spend a lot of time in the weight loss space with patients, and most people do a lot of cardio and really push themselves on the cardio side. And I said, cardio is great for the cardiovascular system, but really what we want to do is muscle build, increase your protein, build your muscles, build your strength and your core and all those ideals. And I think Pilates is wonderful for that. I think it incorporates, in my mind, tell me if I'm wrong, please, that it incorporates a little bit of an ability to kind of get one with your body like yoga does, but again, more muscle building, strength training. And I think it's a great addition to somebody trying to get into, the weight loss space and toning and building muscle. So I think it's something that people really don't know a lot about, but should look into. And there are plenty of, places to do this. You guys provide one. And so I think Pilates is an excellent resource for kind of that mind, body, spirit, but not very well known. So it's lovely that you bring that into the mix. So we're looking for ways to kind of restructure your life, restructure your mental health, things that you can do for stress relief, because you brought this up in the beginning. This is a fast-paced world. We are all trying to get to the top as quick as possible. I find, and I think you touched on this, I find that I try to get that next step, that next award, build my CV and all the things that, we can reach for and attain in life. But I found the same as you. It's really more about contribution. And, there's only so many things you can do. And I think we're seeking approval sometimes, trying to get that next award or whatnot. I just want the world to love me. I want, people to love me. And it's like, you're already loved. If you love yourself, what can you do to give back to your community? So I love that you brought that up. And so the journaling and Pilates and things like that, I think, are ways of tying in for people how to slow down your life, regroup, find your more internal spiritual self. And I'll say one thing, we're going to hit a break here in a second. I want you to tell everybody where they can find you and all. Afterwards, after a short break, I want to come back and talk about your book and your nonprofit. But somebody told me that, the great, so people like Stephen Covey or Tim Robbins or all the great thinkers out there, and these are the modern day ones, but they all get up early. They all spend some time in meditation or prayer. They all do some reading and works of other great people, and then they sit and journal and create their own thoughts and their own processes. People imagine that it takes hours. It's like, well, when am I going to work out? When am I going to make breakfast for the kids? But there's just a shadow of, even 20 minutes. I think if people could take some time like that to get their day started and slow the pace of their life and look at their life at the beginning of the morning and try to build, I think that's a great way to do it. Do you agree?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. So you've said it perfectly. And, the morning hours, at least for me, and, even as you've said, handful of very successful people make the biggest difference. Like, I know if I don't get up and get my day started with my own personal time, then I'm doing everyone around me a disservice as the day moves forward. And that's the last thing I want to do. So absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Serve
yourself first and feed yourself. I think women are particularly horrible at this, getting up
it took me a long time to become much better. But yes, goodness. It makes the world a difference. It really does. I always say being selfish first is the most selfless thing you can do.
Absolutely. You cannot take care of others until you take care of yourself. That's a hard lesson to learn. Again, I think women are particularly worse at that, in different ways. So tell us then how we can find you and where you are and what things, links and stuff, and anything else that you that we can do for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, in terms of staying in touch with me, my website, KaylaLogue.com, has just about everything. So you could even find my nonprofit there. You can work with me in terms of, on higher level with coaching. I have workshops that are coming up. There's going to be Pilates retreats coming up. My book's there. I have done podcasts there. And then, of course, social media links, everything there. I'm on Instagram, on LinkedIn,
Perfect.
Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all things.
Very good. Keep it all in one spot. I love it. So yes.
Yeah, it's just easy to go to one and then click around.
It really is, isn't it? It is. And I know she had a nice link tree. I saw you on LinkedIn this morning, followed you, and saw you on LinkedIn. You've got a lot of great, very quick references there too. So that's a good spot to look at. And
Instagram's a good one to go to because it has everything there too. It's right in my links.
Yeah, very good. We will hit all of those and follow you. So we will take a short break, come back and talk about your book, a very interesting book, and give us just a few minutes. We'll be right back.
Depression, anxiety, low energy, weakness, these are just some symptoms of low B12 levels. And the absorbable B12 folate supplement that's helping people declare victory over depression symptoms is De Novo Plus B12 by Magna Pharmaceuticals. Patients with symptoms of depression often exhibit low levels of folate and vitamin B12. The human body needs sufficient folate intake to produce the essential neurotransmitters serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. These neurotransmitters alleviate feelings of sadness, anxiety, and gloom. What makes De Novo Plus B12 so successful? De Novo Plus B12 contains readily absorbable folate and B12. That means it's more successful at correcting the root cause of your deficiency, not just the symptoms. Whether you are suffering with low energy, depression, fatigue, or anxiety, you owe it to yourself to learn more at magnaweb.com. That's magnaweb.com. Please let us know at checkout that you heard about De Novo Plus B12 on The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. I'm Dr. Marianne Pinkston here with Kayla Logue this morning. We've had a great conversation about a couple of things that I think people should understand and know about making your mind, body, spirit a better place for you to live. I know sometimes I question living inside my own head, and it's not always a fun place. So these are great tactics at getting to the bottom of how you can improve and improve on your life and make your mind, body health a lot better. So you have written a book. I would love to hear about this, and it's very good. I bought it and was able to go through it, and so great book. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so it's called Always Squeezing Lemons. And I mentioned earlier the subtitle is Taking Responsibility to Define Your Own Success. And I'm a big fan of metaphors. I think that they're a really great way to take, very complex topics and make it more fun and easily digestible. Absolutely. So the title being Always Squeezing Lemons, we always hear, squeeze the lemons of life, or when life gives you lemons, make sure you squeeze them. But the always is what's really important there. So the always is, life's going to give you setbacks.
Yes.
There's going to be challenges you're going to have to overcome, but it's your choice to always continue to turn a setback into a comeback and to take that challenge and, come out greater and better on the other side. And growth is never ending. So that always is really important in terms of squeezing the lemons of life. And, in one sentence, I would say what really summarizes the whole book is when you realize you can be the cause, problem, and solution for everything in your life, your world changes. And it's really that radical responsibility mindset shift that, you could be one choice away from a more fulfilling, better life, but it's ultimately up to you to make that choice. And, I really paint the picture through the entire book of my story of choosing the difficult route or, choosing the thing that may not be the popular opinion, but also coming out on the other side and showing that there is heartbreak, there is failure, there is hurt involved, but you don't have the other side without the counter. So we don't experience the highs of highs without the lows of lows. And that's life. And a lot of it's subjective. Failure is subjective just as success is. And if we start labeling so much good and bad, failure, success, we get too caught up in those labels rather than just fully embracing and experiencing it and turning what is a setback into a comeback and just using that as a learning experience, not allowing it to hinder us. And, so my stories are very raw, they're very real, they're very vulnerable. And, even for those looking to journal, at the end of each chapter, I have a lemon drop, which is the key takeaway, the summary of the chapter. Yeah. And then I also provide a journal prompt. Yes. So even if you were to buy the book and literally just go through the 12 pages at the end of each one, probably take something away from it. So, it allows it to be interactive and, take things that I've experienced and, hopefully giving it to readers as, hey, here's a roadmap of what maybe to do, what not to do, Absolutely. And the learning experiences, and apply it to your own life.
Yeah, that kind of support and it is very important. So the support and the tools that you give yourself and place around you are extremely important. I had a similar story of divorce and a huge fall from success and had to start over and rebuild. I think many people do this and aren't so outward and don't advertise it. But I think taking these experiences and sharing them with others is extremely important. Your book is very positive. And so if you're looking for something that will kind of feed your soul in a positive fashion, you're really going through it, you need a resource of some sort, everybody's too busy to sit down with you and help, your insurance ran out, you can't afford counseling. I mean, there's so many situations that people run into where they can't really get help. A simple book like this, very positive, I think is very, very helpful. So I highly recommend it. I noticed it was on an Amazon bestseller. Congratulations. I see why.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
I appreciate that.
Please check this out. And, one thing too, with people, going through issues, many times I feel we compare ourselves, like you said, and not only compare ourselves, but sometimes we get into a rut where our pain is more than everybody else's. We want everybody to focus on us because we have been through something so horrible, and my pain is so more significant. And really, you are correct in saying that it is very subjective to people. My pain is no worse than anybody else's pain. It's just how you view it. And if you are, ready to make a better choice for yourself and think more positively in your life and make that turnaround, then take responsibility for it and then just choose and manifest it. It really sounds very simple. It's not. But in the end, when you look back, it is a great step for people to take. And I do think that is a fantastic book to do now to read. So you also have the Move Into Words. I want to focus on your nonprofit a little bit because of the mental and physical, descriptions that you get for young leaders and guiding them. So explain your nonprofit. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, so I mentioned a little bit earlier. So really our mission is to cultivate a community for young professionals to thrive physically and mentally. So we really believe that, empowering each individual to be the best leader of their own lives allows them to show up and be better leaders for every single person around them. So we really provide and focus on giving them the tools to be able to do so. And currently what we've been doing, last year we did quarterly events. This year we're doing bi-monthly events. Right now we're only in the Charlotte area, but we do a workout for the body and a workshop for the mind. Nice. So we do some sort of physical activity on the front end of the so it's a 2-hour event. So for 1 hour we got a workout, and then the second hour we pretty much cover some, like, I'm gonna say mainstream, but like a mental health topic that we all could really essentially struggle with. Kind of as you even said, you don't have to be declared as you have a mental health problem to struggle with certain things. Right. And so we've covered anxiety, we've covered confidence, we've covered self-awareness and relationships. Past one we did overcoming burnout and building resilience. Nice. So really shaping practical tools for everyone that's there, and sharing their stories and make it extremely interactive. And then we do provide journals for every single attendee, and we talk about the practicalness of journaling. So of course we're only here for 2 hours, and we're giving you the best 2 hours we possibly can. The community is amazing, the energy is unmatched. But when you leave here, how can you continue to do this? Of course, move your body, address these topics, but here is a tool that you can take with you and do on a daily basis and continue to better your life. And we provide the resources. We have like little cutouts and stuff that say, hey, here's where to start, this is why you should do this. And we're continuing to build upon that. But ultimately we're really wanting to expand to many different cities. We have a full plan to do so. So we're just kind of in that initial building phases, but it's such an impactful community. I mean, we are so excited about this past event. It was amazing. We had over 85 people there, and it was, truly the energy was unmatched.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's been really, really great. It's been really cool to see the responses and, the people that are wanting to get involved. We had multiple people reach out wanting to volunteer after. So the momentum is definitely building, but, ultimately, our mission is really focusing on that community, that environment, but then really just wanting every single person to be a better human being. That's and, wonderful. Giving them and really focusing on those tools to help them be so.
Wonderful. And I hope you guys do expand on this. This sounds like the next movement dear. I really think that if you guys can build on that, I would love for my children, to do something like that. I would do it. I mean, I know it's for young professionals, but I tell you, starting over at 50, I feel like I'm in the youth of my new world. So
well, I mean, we say young professionals, but I mean, ultimately, even like with my book, right? There's many people that I've taken from my book that the target audience, essentially, and I put that in quotes because that's what it is. But ultimately, if you're looking for a major shift in your life, or even if you're looking for a stronger community, my book or Move Into Words, like you definitely fit into that mold. I think age is just a number, right? Again, it can be very subjective. So, ultimately everyone is welcome. Anybody that wants to be better, come on.
Absolutely.
You are more than welcome to walk in our doors.
I would walk in that door.
I love it. We'd love to have you.
That would be wonderful. So, looking at all of this that you have brought up this morning and putting it all together, there are many ways that people can take you can have a great life. You still got a lot of problems and, maybe not many past traumas, but you want to do some changing. You want to contribute to the world. You want to, improve yourself. This is a good focus and plan to take. If you have, extensive amount of history of traumas and difficulties or struggle with a significant mental illness of some sort, this is a puzzle that fits. Your little pieces fit everything together beautifully. And it's just a matter of looking at yourself in the mirror and taking that responsibility and that accountability, as you say, and, starting somewhere. Journaling, physical fitness, looking for that support around you, choosing a conference of sort or a place where you can go with others who are like-minded, looking for the same thing. These are all tactics that people should take in order to make that change. And, you just got to get started. And I think that accountability factor is the number one thing, just that accountability, which you said, and I think is absolutely wonderful. Do you agree with all?
100%. Yes. Great summary. Couldn't have done it better myself.
Thank you. Well, you have brought together a lot of great topics and thoughts this morning. I really hope people check out the book. I was really impressed with it, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. So tell us one more time where we can find you.
So easiest link, go straight to my website, KaylaLogue.com. Everything is there. But on social wise, Instagram, LinkedIn, really great places with also additional links. Those are like my main, I would say, social medias that I really focus on. So, but yeah, if you want to see more, work with me, get in touch about even the nonprofit, email me directly. It's all on my website, KaylaLogue.com.
Wonderful. Well, I have absolutely enjoyed you being on. I will tell people that I will have your information on my website. So I do the same thing, everything in one spot. So drpbetterlife.com. You can find all my social media and past shows. Been doing this about 3 years now. So all my past shows, and definitely will be able to find Kayla and her links to the book, to her website, social media, everything. We will have all that listed there. And so what's next for you?
Well, right now, really, I mean, I feel like I've done a lot of changing, obviously, over the past 4 years, going up and down. And I'm excited to say that now I'm really just focusing on growing Jet Set and growing Move Into Words and putting really my energy and effort there. And of course, I knew new things and opportunities will kind of branch out and come up.
Always.
But it's all in the health and wellness space. And, so excited to see the growth of both of those over the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
And beyond.
And beyond. And you are a great example of how that failure that you perceive and what, as I say for myself, falling on your face is not the end of the world. And it doesn't matter what age it is. If it happens to you young, well, you're lucky. You've got a lot of life left to figure it all out. If it happens to you really late, it's not over. And so do that work and pick up the pieces and move on. You are a fantastic example of that. I absolutely appreciate you being on today and spreading the word. Thank you very much. And any last words?
Oh, gosh.
How do you do that?
I mean,
big question.
No, I mean, ultimately, I really like to say this, and it's always a great closer, is that mindset shift of realizing that you can be the cause, problem, and solution for everything in your life. And when you accept that, your life does become much better. So just embodying that as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. It sounds like a great podcast title. So there you go. Awesome. Kayla, thank you so much. And I hope to see you soon. Talk to you as well.
Yeah, sounds great.
Everybody have a great week. Thank you.